Hi, my name is Kevin and I collect old irons. In previous videos we talked about two great old iron inventors of the 19th century, Mary Florence Potts and Nelson R. Streeter, both of whom invented detachable handle sat irons. But there was a third great inventor, Susan R. Knox, who invented machine fluting irons. Mrs. Susan R. Knox is a person of whom we knew absolutely nothing, except her name occurs on some machine fluters and on some patents. But I think I found her. There was a Susan R. Knox, born in New York City in 1842, maiden name Pulsifer, married Arthur Knox in 1861. Susan died December 18th in 1909. She had about 6 children, of which 2 or 3 survived her. And that's all we know. I don't even know what the R of her middle name might be. Knox was part of the first wave of American fluting iron patents in 1866. Susan was a contemporary of Florence Potts, 8 years older. The important Potts and Knox patents were only 5 years apart. But while Potts rather quickly lost control of her key patent, Knox was able to keep and successfully defend her key patent and had other patents assigned to her. While we know very little about her, she plainly was a remarkable woman. In some real sense, Susan R. Knox was responsible for the American style of fluting machine, that is, with the roller between the two posts. The previous English and other early American machines had the rollers external to the central structure, such as this Thomas Clark crimping machine. A crimping iron has finer pleats than a fluting iron. Susan had 2 patents in 1866, the first on April 3rd with William Chorister. This is known as the Knox and Chorister. This is the very first American fluting patent that resulted in a manufactured product. This is an odd design from our perspective. The device is oriented horizontally rather than with the vertical posts that we are used to. I do not have this iron in my collection, and so I'm here drawing on a photo of one sold at the second Dave Irons auction. This is quite unusual, on a wooden board and fairly rare. This example sold for $750. Knox and Chorister did not do further work together, and Susan's other 1866 patent, recorded on November 20th, had only her name. That second Knox patent was the important one. The design uses a lever on the back to separate the rollers and a spring on the top to maintain pressure. A very simple design that heavily influenced most subsequent fluters, and most of the especially successful American fluting machines used this Knox patent. There were 2 other 1866 American fluting iron patents that resulted in manufactured products. Henrietta Cole's patent produced a couple of different designs, and these had the rollers outside the central frame, and also had the unique feature of having weights that were used for adjusting the pressure on the rollers. These irons are fairly rare and are worth several $100s. The other 1866 fluter patent was by Samuel Cabell on July 17th of that year. And that patent was used on the Osborne fluter. The patent had a faucet-like device for adjusting the tension, but it lacked a device for readily separating the rollers so you could get the fabric between them. Samuel Cabell later assigned this and another patent to his wife Flora, and also assigned one of these patents to Susan Knox. Flora Cabell and Susan Knox appear to have had some kind of business relationship, as Knox essentially subsumed Cabell's patents into her own, I think by mutual arrangement. The illustration on November 20th patent was quite similar to the iron made by the Henry Sowerbeer and Son foundry in Newark, New Jersey, and I assume that Susan worked closely with this company prior to submitting the patent. These fluters carry the Sowerbeer name on one side and the Susan Knox and patent date on the other side. The base is usually quite large and close to being square, although there are many variants. The Sowerbeer iron that I have here is smaller than usual, and it does not have the Susan Knox name on this, which I think means that this was made after the early 1880s when the Knox patent expired. These had a very long production run, and that accounts for these irons being as common as they are. The iron is very heavy and robustly built, and I think that is part of the design to help keep the iron on the table and keep it shifting as you're working. This Sowerbeer & Son iron is a quite different and later design that includes Susan Knox's name, which you can see on the top. The iron is marked the Improved Knox. This photo comes from the Barry Balestri auction of 2018, and this example sold for $40. A good deal. The Perrin & Gaff Manufacturing Company of Cincinnati, Ohio, also used the November 20th, 1866 patent for an iron quite similar to the early examples made by the Sowerbeer & Son Company. Both companies made fluting irons for some years, though the later Perrin & Gaff designs were quite different and did not use the Knox patents. This photo comes from the First Dave Irons book. In 1874, Susan Knox et al. Sued Arthur Lowry et al. For infringement of the Knox and Cabell patents. The Lowry and Tucker company had made some designs called the Crown Jewel. This has an 1869 patent date marked here, but we can find no such patent. The design is quite obviously Susan Knox. It has the lever lift bar here, it has a turn screw on the top. So Susan Knox called him on this, and Lowry ultimately agreed and paid Susan Knox for the use of her patents. And thus we have this, which is called the Knox Improved on the bottom. Susan R. Knox, manufactured under, lists all of the Knox and Cabell patents, and then at the bottom here, the Lowry and Tucker Model 19 from Newark, New Jersey. Plainly, Susan R. Knox is quite the businesswoman. She has a good patent, which she's marketed to various manufacturers. She's brought in other patents to strengthen her brand. She has protected herself against infringement. She has long business relationships with various manufacturers, including Lowry and Tucker after they were sued. Indeed, all of the very successful machine fluter designs into the 1880s have the Susan Knox name on them. She is ready for the big time, the American Machine Company of Philadelphia. The American Machine Company put out the original Susan R. Knox in 1877, or soon thereafter. Why was this called the original? Susan has had her name on fluting irons for 10 years already, but her name is now well known, and original sells irons. The original Knox also has an oval cameo on the base that included her likeness. And, by the way, she had that image copyrighted. And this needs to be said. The fluter irons in general often list various patents, but if an iron includes the November 20th, 1866 patent, then Susan Knox's name is on the iron. No exceptions. Knox was a smart and feisty lady and well able to take care of herself in a man's world. And here is a smaller example of the original Knox. It needs to be said that there are many variations. The rollers can be longer or shorter, and that changes the whole shape of the iron. And the flutes can be more or fewer. There can also be differences in the paint, decals, and so forth. And that observation goes for a lot of the old irons. American Machine already had its own line of fluting irons under some 6 or 8 brands, each with a separate trade card, a subject for another video. There is no Susan Knox trade card that I know of. She was something of an outsider to the American Machine operation. But a lot of the American Machine fluters are fairly similar to the Knox products, and Susan Knox was not someone to trifle with. I think there was some kind of a deal worked out, and I would guess that Knox was in the driver's seat. One thing that the original Susan Knox has is a clamp hinged to the corner of the base. This was patented by Herman Albrecht in 1877 and is included on many of the American Machine Company fluter irons. This feature is not on the Susan Knox irons made by other manufacturers. Let's talk about a couple of the later Susan Knox fluters. These would be from the 1880s, I believe. This particular one, a beautiful piece, is labeled the Mrs. Susan R. Knox machine fluter. Every woman should have one. Very nice piece with a forward spring here, and I think that the American Machine Company production of the original Knox continues, but this is by a different manufacturer. So there's no clamp, but there is screw holes in the corners to bolt the thing to the table. And here is the Knox Imperial. Very pretty fluting iron. Has a cabochon here offset from the middle. Very shapely base. There are, as usual, multiple variants. Some have a spring on the front, some have something different, various kinds of markings. And this was made by the Knox Manufacturing Company. Susan has done well. I also have a flyer for the Susan R. Knox Revolving Sat-Iron Heater Company, Jackson and Stevens manufacturers of New York City. There is also mention here of a patented kerosene stove, round oven, and heating drum, though I have not seen the patents for these. Here is a picture of a Susan R. Knox revolving sat-iron heater. This is from the Mary Balestri auction in 2018. I have seen an original Susan R. Knox fluting iron that was electrified. Whether that was marketed that way or retrofitted, I do not know. But it seems pretty obvious that her irons were being used, if not marketed, into the 20th century. I ask that, if you are being informed by these videos on old irons, that you become a subscriber and give us a thumbs up. We hear that that helps with the YouTube algorithms. If you're interested in seeing more of these videos or a complete list of these videos, there is such a list on the PICA website, and we will include that link in the descriptions. We do look forward to seeing you again, and thank you.